Hello and welcome to the Traveling Knitter channel. My name is Steph and this video is my 2023 wrap up. So everything that I knit in 2023 as well as my 2024 goals and a little bit of a flip through my crafting bullet journal. So let's just get started. The numbers are, I made a total of 26 items, 3 sweaters, 1 cardigan, 4 pairs of socks, 2 cowls, 8 hats, 1 pair of gloves, a scarf, 5 bow ties, and a coffee cozy. I'm going to go through them in order throughout the year. So if you're new to my channel or you've only watched maybe the last couple episodes, the beginning of this episode will be things you may have never seen. Before getting too far in, real quick, the sweater that I am wearing is a Tiff Nealon design. It is, I have to look it up. Let's see. This is the Coastal Crop Raglan. There it is. It has a split hem and this spine detail. So it's not just a faux seam. It is a faux seam, spine, lacy detail thing that I really, really like. And there are the cuffs. So it has a bit of detail here and then twisted ribbing. And for me, it's pretty fitted, cropped, and the neckline again has that fun detail. The yarns that I used were Knit Picks. The Knit Picks tweed, I want to say city tweed, and I can't remember what this colorway is called, like toad or something. And then the brown was just some Knit Picks palette that I bought for a different project, and then I held it up and noticed that the brown in the palette matched the tweed neps in this yarn, and so I just thought, oh, perfect. And the pattern does have contrasting cuffs and has that design element, so I'm like cut off. Let's see if that's a little bit better as it like wobbles a bit. I tried to be artsy with my background because I am filming in front of my linen closet. Really, it's a craft closet, it's a craft and board game closet. And then this is just an empty wall. So I put up, for Christmas, I got a tapestry rug and I just decided to put it up here for now. Can you guess? I mean, it says Disney, so you can probably figure out what this is depicting, but I'll give you to the end of the video to make a guess, and then I'll tell you what it is. Okay, so that's this sweater. I love it. It was my very first Tiff Nealon pattern, and she's gonna pop up a couple times during this video. I have a bullet journal for crafting and for reading. This was the first year I'd used one for crafting. There were some successes and some not so big successes that I'll get into at the end, but there's the beginning craft journal. And in January, I knit the travel sweater. And I've just gotta pull it out. Oop. And there it is. So here is my travel sweater. It has a mohair or a Surrey detail up here, and then no Surrey in the body. And it has this fun contrasting ribbed cuff, so you can really see the contrast there. This was a test knit that I did, and I knit the standard length. This pattern comes in both a standard and a crop length. The needle sizes that I used were 2 sizes smaller than recommended. So there's a lot of needle sizes that you use in this pattern. I used, for needle A, I used a US 5. For B, I used a US 3. For C, I used a US 6. For D, a US 4. And for E, a US 2.5. So there were 5 different needle sizes that you had, or that I had to use to make this sweater. The yarn that I used was Less Traveled Yarns from her Creosote collection. I think it's like a Prehistoric Rocks or something. The main colorway is Barley, and I used Paloma DK. And then the baby suri was also Barley, so same color for the suri. And then the contrast color was also Paloma DK, but in the Monsoon colorway, and that is the one that you can see a bit more brown. So you use that for the cuff, the neckline, and this hem. So the hem is pretty thick. And I love the sweater. I love the colors. I really like this for just throwing on over top of my workout clothes because it's neutral and nice and soft. But this hem portion can be a little bit difficult to style because it is so thick and it hits me pretty much right at my hips, which I'm not self-conscious about my hips, but on like my jeans, that's already where there's, you know, the extra fabric from your belt loop, from your zipper, and so it puffs out even more. So yeah, I wonder, like, if I had done the crop, would I have liked this fatter band around my, you know, cropped waist? Because then I would be even more straight. I'm not very curvy, so like my boobs to my hips to my butt to my thighs are almost a straight line. So it would look like this, and it would come out right where, you know, the smallest part of your waist would be, because I don't really have a waist indentation. So this sometimes doesn't look the best, but I think it looks cute regardless. So I don't regret making this. I would make it again. I like the contrast of the suri up here. That's really nice. I think the different colors on your cuffs are fun. I like the concept of this, but I need to play around with the placement. I think this would be even nicer if you did a much more oversized sweater and then had this, you know, like being a very focal piece and being a super long ribbing might be cool. So that is my traveler sweater. Then in February, I finished a pair of 2x2 socks for my brother. I don't have those. I gifted them to him for Christmas. That's right. I finished a Christmas gift in February of 2023 for December 2023. Pretty good. So those were knit out of Barocco sock, and they were a blue self-striping. And then for the contrast, I used some black sock yarn that I had in my stash. I think they ended up being DK. That or like a very heavy fingering or a sport weight. They were a lot thicker than the Barocco that I used. I finished the Oceanborn scarf, which was by Audrey Borrego of Yarn Flakes. I started this during the pandemic as a test knit, and it was such a slog. I had decided to make it way longer than it needed to be, and I basically lost steam. I did like 2/3 of it, enough to be able to do the math for everything else, and took pictures and all that jazz, but I finally finished it in 2023. And this ended up being a Christmas gift for my dad, and I used Yarn Bee's Soft and Sleek DK in the Irish Rain colorway, which was number 13. I don't think this is available anymore. I ended up using 2.5 skeins. In March, I finished a hat to go along with that scarf. So I used up the rest of that yarn and then a tiny bit of the BFL Masham that I used to make the Orlina sweater a couple years ago. So it almost matched the color, so you could barely tell that it was different yarn. I don't think anyone would notice unless you're really inspecting the yarn. And even then, probably only a crafter would notice that the yarn had changed. The Lovely Ribbed Hat is a pattern by Pearl Soho. And what was fun about this one is I knit this hat while I was in Disney World to do the Princess Challenge, which is I ran a 10K and then a half marathon with one of my friends from my old job. And it was so much fun. It was exhausting. So I decorated my page kind of Disney-esque, and my recommendation, if you're to do a Disney races or anything and you're not like an extreme work runner, split your park days. Like, don't go to the park the day before your half marathon would be my recommendation. Don't go the day of and don't go the day before. So in April, I finished my Missoni Accomplish. I should have organized these sweaters a bit more than what I did. Here is my Missoni Accomplish. This guy is huge. I still have not fixed or adjusted the neckline, which I will. The Missoni Accomplish was knit out of Knit Picks limited edition Daydream in rose quartz and pewter. I had decided to extend the body, and when I did that, I ran out of yarn. This was limited edition, so they didn't have any more of this. So then I went on a mission to search Instagram and Ravelry to find somebody who would be willing to sell or trade a skein of the pewter for me. And I found somebody. Their name is Macy, and their Instagram handle is Macy Knits Things. I'll put it on the screen. So thank you again, Macy, for saving me and allowing me to finish my sweater. And I have enough to correct this neckline. So I'm very, very excited. Out of everything that I finished this year, I would say this is the thing that I knit that I've worn the most, even though the neckline is just a smidge too big. This is just so easy. It's so oversized. It's so warm. I love this. It does have a bit of like a girly Charlie Brown vibe, but I really, really like this. Would recommend it. It is a circular yoke, but I think because of it being so oversized, the circularness works. Okay. I do hate that about sweaters, and how there's always this like fabric up here when you lift your arms. I would knit this again. I would knit this for somebody else. I would even use the same yarn. It is a bit scratchier than the other yarn, the other blown yarn that they have that I'm now blanking on, but I've made 2 sweaters out of that yarn. So this is a bit different, a bit more scratchier. So pretty. I also finished, finally, the poodle mittens for my mom. I had planned to gift these to my mom for Christmas 2022, and I ended up knitting these mittens 3 times because of the yarn. Like, the yarn that I used was Drops Flora, and it was just so thin that the gauge just looked weird and gapey, and yeah, so I had to knit this 3 times just to get a fabric that I liked and a mitten that you could actually wear, but they turned out so cute. So cute. Really love them. The pattern is by Jorid Lindvik, and it is from a mitten pattern book that you could find on Amazon. I actually got mine, I think, from the Knit Picks booth at Stitches Midwest, which Stitches is no longer a thing, so that's sad. Then I have 2 donation hats that I finished in the month of April, and it is these guys. So the contrast here is using the leftovers from the Drops Flora from the mittens that I made, and then the main color of the hats are just random Vanna's Choice that I had. And these 2 were me experimenting with ChatGPT. So I put in the flea pattern myself. I basically did knit 3, change color, knit 3, change color, and then a round of the main color, and then alternated. So then you would have knit 1, change color, knit 3, change color, knit 3, change color. That's our, so that you're stacking it. What I had done though was I was getting ChatGPT to give me the numbers for the hat as well as the numbers to decrease on the crown. And so you can see here that I've got, this one is 6, I think. No, this is 4. So this is splitting your hat into 4 quadrants. This is splitting your hat into 6 quadrants. So this, you know, is rounder, a bit nicer, not as pointy. But I think actually, you know what? The fleas were fine in both. So these were just ChatGPT experiments, and they are in the donation pile. Then in May, I finished another test knit. This is the Mullet Over Pullover by Tiff Nealon, and I used Hue Loco yarn to knit this. I knit the size 4, and I used single sock and Phyllis sock held double in the pistachio colorway, and then a Hue Loco mini, which I think is their sock, in honey. I love honey. I would love to make a sweater just in honey. I think it's gorgeous. Here's the sweater. I like the sweater. I thought I would like wearing this color more than I do. So it is a little bit harder to wear, which it's not that hard, right? Like anytime I wear anything black, I can put this over, and I do wear a lot of black jeans, so it's fine. It's just definitely not, it's not a sweater that I gravitate towards. I wish I had made the sleeves a little bit wider. They are, if there was probably 2 stitches less, this would be complete sausage cake arms. So at least we're not there, but I wish the arms were a bit wider. And I think basically if I just had not decreased, then this would have been fine. Holding this with my right arm is better, but I made space on the left-hand side. So what I really liked was holding the 2 different yarns together, the single and the Phyllis, because I felt like okay, on camera, I think on camera the pooling is always a bit more visible, but even then, you know, you kind of get it here, 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 but even that is not huge pooling, right? Do we agree? Like, I think it did a pretty good job. So, you know, a recommendation is if you're getting a speckled yarn, try getting maybe 2 different fingering bases if you're going to hold them together, because maybe the speckles are going to disperse a little bit differently. So I thought that turned out really, really well. I did run out of the single ply once I got into the ribbing, but because the single sock has more yarn than the single ply skein, I just started holding the 2 Phyllis socks together and it was fine. Like, you're not gonna notice that. The cuffs, I believe, are half fisherman's rib. I think it's half fisherman's rib, not brioche. And it looks really cute, and you do have this eyelet detail here. So this was really fun, and like I said, this was a test knit, and it came out pretty good. I also finished another test knit, the Doodle Cowl, in the reversible method. So this is the basic Doodle Cowl. This was a test knit for Pacific Knit Co. or Jamie Lomax. And this is the first pattern where I started using my iPad to track patterns, and I have not looked back. It's been fantastic. So I used Juniper Moon, 2 colorways in Juniper Moon. It is 1017 for the pink and just 1 for the white. This is an alpaca yarn. It is so soft and lovely. I have some left over, and I think I'm gonna make mittens or something with them, and they're gonna be so nice. The inside is a gray yarn that was I think a Bernat baby. It's like a leftover. I did not have enough yarn of the Juniper Moon Harriet to be able to reverse it and do like a counter, the opposite colors. So I went with a solid, and I love it. Like, even though this is really soft, it does kind of have a bit of a prickle factor, whereas this is baby yarn. There's no prickle to it whatsoever. Plus it's gray, so I'm not gonna get foundation marks on it like I would with the white. So I really like that. The way that the Doodle Cowls work is you get a whole bunch of little motifs, and then you can put them together. They all are the same length, but obviously you can adjust it, you can kind of shift them around, which I did. I also inverted mine, so like this one and this one is the same, but I inverted it so that I would have an inverse. So yeah, I really like this. This turned out so nice. And then I made 2 additional donation hats. So this is a ribbing hat, and this is a ribbing hat. I feel like one or both of these are either Pearl Soho's lovely hat or something. I'm not sure. I didn't write which one. I did mark that this is also a ChatGPT crown experiment, so maybe I also used ChatGPT for these. I really don't remember, but I think this is really cool. And then this one I think is your more standard, where you decrease evenly in the round. Either way, these are Vanna's Choice, and then the tiniest leftover Vanna's Choice from the previous ones with the speckles. In June, I finished another pair of socks. These were a scrappy pair of socks. They were using the leftover Barocco sock yarn that I used for my brother, striped with another leftover yarn that was this tealish color that I do not remember what that yarn was. So I think you can see that they're striping. So I did 2 of the Barocco, single of the scrap, 2 Barocco, single scrap, and then I did the toe, heel, and the cuff in that other scrap yarn. And it turned out fantastic. I did have a silver gray that I was carrying with me in this bag in case I ran out of any of the colors that I could switch over to it. but it worked out. And these were originally a gift, but I liked them so much that I kept them for myself. So these ended up being for me. July, I was in LA for basically the entire month, but I did manage to finish another donation hat. I used Red Heart Soft Deep Sea to knit this, and this was just a self-drafted pattern. I cast on 96 stitches. I did 1 by 1 rib, and then I did broken rib. So one stockinette in the round, and then 1 by 1 stockinette, 1 by 1, and then I did 6 decrease sections for my crown with a center double decrease on the knit round, so that I could have this spine. So that's that. Another donation hat. In August, I finished my last garment, which is my Savon Cardigan. This is by Audrey Borrego of Yarn Flakes. I knit the size 2, but I picked up more stitches for the armhole because I guess my shoulder arm, like my arms are larger than proportionate to the rest of my body. I don't know. Either way, or it's just my preference. I don't like things attacking my armpit. It makes me sweat. I don't like it. It makes me feel like it's too small, even if it's fine, but personal preference. So I picked up more stitches. Something that I'm thinking of changing is the I-cord. And I say it every time I look at it, so I think it will happen. The I-cord, I used a different yarn because I ran out of the Hey Sister Yarn Co. This is in their Fantastic Base. In the sepia colorway, I used 3 skeins, completely all of it. They no longer dye, so unfortunately you cannot get this yarn, but it's so nice. This was a Knit Picks DK that I dyed myself using avocado, and I feel like the tone works really well. I'm gonna undo this and I'm going to pick up every stitch rather than like 2 per 3 stitches, so that this is just longer, stretchier. I have stretched it as much as I can, and you can see that it's definitely higher than the back, and then because, you know, of boobs, this comes up even higher. So I think that will be a really good change. I love this. Here's a close-up of the stitch definition. It's so pretty. I also finished my sister-in-law's socks, but unless I can find pictures, I don't think I have any pictures, which is ridiculous. I used Cascade Heritage Prints, and it was a bright green and purple color. So yeah, and they were just vanilla socks. I think I did 2 by 2 rib and then a German short row heel, which is my preferred heel. In September, I finished my Rhinebeck Doodle Cowl. This guy is so cute. I used a Miss Babs yarn for my main color, and then a mini skein set that my best friend had gotten me when she was in New Zealand, and it was by Yarn Floozy. So it's all of these gorgeous deep jewel tone colors. And again, it was a test knit. We got a whole bunch of little motifs that you could then combine together to create your cowl. I did this time just a single, I'm forgetting what this is called, but it's not reversible. So there's all my floats here, which look really fun. But something I did a little bit differently than I think what you normally see is I did a folded over rib, and then to tack it down, I did a crocheted chain to tack it down. And I used a contrast color that I had not used in the cowl, and I did that for both sides. And I think that just looks really nice. What I found with some of my other cowls is that when I wear them, they kind of flop open and then you see the floats and stuff. But I thought, you know, this would just look very intentional, purposeful, and just add to it. So I really like it. And I quite like the additional material of the folded over ribbing for this cowl. Again, it's by Jamie Lovick of Pacific Knit Co. And I did not use all of the charts. There are quite a bit more charts that are available. A lot of animals that I did not include in mine. In October, I finished my Irving socks, which is a pattern by Jacqueline Salem. I knit these out of leftover yarn. That was kind of a theme this year, was using leftovers. I used a, this was from a Ashen Bumble mini skein set. I think it was her Zinnia skein set. And then this is Teal Torch Knits, and I use this in my Birds of a Feather shawl. And I'll shift the pattern so that you can see it on the sock a little bit better. There it is. So it is a cable with a feather and fan, and then cable on the other side. And then there is this garter ridge detail in the back that lets you know when you're doing your cable. I also finished my Suburban Wrap. I love this guy. This is a pattern by Joji Locatelli using 3 colors that I got at the very first major yarn festival I ever went to, which was Stitches Midwest, which was in Schoenberg, which is just down the street from where my parents live. The yarn that I used, they no longer dye. It was Backyard Fibers in Marina, Trading Post, and Bittersweet. And it's gorgeous. So there's lace, stripes, simple lace, just some stitch definition here, a little bit of stitch pattern. And then you kind of repeat everything, just in different bits of orders and things like that. Super, super fun. Really love this. And I made a really fun reel with this one too that I'm pretty proud of. It's a stop go animation, which if I loved Wallace and Gromit growing up. This is where you kind of see the Australian influence of my childhood. I did not live in Australia. When I was little, I actually lived in Thailand outside of Bangkok. And all of the kids that we were around were Aussies. So me and my brother were the Americans and everybody else they were all Aussies. And so like you see it in some of the words that I use. I say tanking up, which in America, that's not really what you would say. You would say I'm gassing up, or I'm gonna fill up my tank. You don't use the phrase tank up as often. What is something else that I've noticed? Aircon. In the US, you don't say aircon, you say AC or air conditioning. And I believe aircon is like more of an Aussie term. And I didn't really notice any of these things until I went to college and people were calling me out. And I was like, oh, this is just what I've always said. So yeah, love it. I don't know how I got there, but here it is. In November, I finished another donation hat. This is the Barley Worsted by Tin Can Knits using something. I don't know what this yarn is. I knit this because I now teach classes at my local yarn store, and the first class I did was a hat pattern, and it was the Barley Hat, and so I wanted to have my own sample for that class, and this is it. I also finished a coffee mug wrap that I don't think I have a picture of. So yeah, that was using random scraps, knitting around on a 9-inch circular, and I used one of the stitch motifs from a Doodle Cowl or a Doodle pattern. And then in December, the last things that I finished were some hats for my friends' daughters. They were these Garter Ridge hats that came out of one of the 60 Quick Knits. There's a hair in my mouth. Patterns, and it's just so cute. Again, this is using leftovers, various DK yarns from Birch and Lily Fiber Co., Suburban Stitcher, and Mad Dye Yarns, Dyed Mad Yarns, Deep Dye. I was like, it's a D, Deep Dye. Yeah, so I made 2 of these different colors. And then I got onto a bow tie kick. I made bow ties for the dog that I dog sat, Dexter. I made a bow tie for one of my friend's Great Pyrenees dog. I made 2 bow ties for my friend's corgis, Flynn and Jane. And then this bow tie is for my friend's cat. Her cat's name is Grace or Gracie. So this is for a cat. All the rest are for dogs, but there it is. Bow ties. Really into making the bow ties. Very much enjoying the bow ties. That is everything that I knit in 2023. Pretty proud of it. I had hopes for some other sweaters, but I ran out of yarn on 2 of them, and that's what really put a damper in that. But it does mean that 2024, I foresee there being more than 4 garments. So that's super exciting. My goals of 2024, I hope to knit or at least start 12 socks. I made a basket with some sock sets that I would like to knit for socks for myself, and I plan to pick one out every month and pick a pattern that I really wanted to knit. So that is one of the goals of 2024. I'm not putting myself on a yarn diet because it never works. It just doesn't work for me. So instead, I am just going to continue with, I cannot purchase any yarn unless there is a specific project for it. And I might even add to that if I'm buying it for a specific project, I have to start that project this year. So that's another kind of goal that I have. I would like to maintain my bullet journal, but I am going to be making some adjustments. So here's a bit of a flip through. What I've been doing is, those were my goals and I did not knit any of them. I was keeping track of each project that I have on the needles, any purchases that I made, and anything that's on my wish list. This wish list thing just did not work. So I'm not going to be doing that anymore. And for my purchases, I'm actually gonna, and I kind of adjusted this to be stash changes. Instead, I'm going to have a separate page where I keep track of these. I have a spreadsheet on Google Sheets where I keep track of these things, but I'm gonna do it in my bullet journal so that it's just visually there and I see it, and I think that'll help. And then for the projects, instead of listing out every single project that's on my needle at the beginning of each month, and then I only make a page when I'm finished with it, I'm going to make a page once I cast on, because what I find is that I have this page and maybe I make a placeholder and then I write down on Post-it notes and stuff that I want to put in here, when if I just had that page, I could write it right in there. So I'm going to be making that adjustment, which does mean that January is going to be huge, because I'm going to be putting like 15 projects in there. So that is my plan. And I'm also going to keep track of, did I work on that project? I thought about doing it daily, but I think that's just gonna be too much. So instead, I'm gonna mark, so like for my All the Lights cardigan, I did not work on that at all this past year. I'm gonna have a little tracker that says, did I work on it in January, February, March, April? And my goal is I have to work on every single project that's on my needles in a month. I have to put something into it every single month. If I don't, I need to do something about it. I need to rip it out or something. So I think that will help, especially with like my cross stitch and some of these projects that I have not touched in literal years. I think that's going to help, because a month this is a leap year. So every month has at least 29 days. I have to be able to dedicate one day to a project. So that's going to be something I'm going to try out. And of course, maintain my bullet journal. Reflections on 2023. The thing that I'm probably the most proud of that I finished is my Savon cardigan. This was a lot of knitting. This was a pattern. It was a two-sided pattern, so there were no rest rows. And I love this guy so much. So this is probably what I'm the most proud of. And am I disappointed in anything? I think if I had to mark something as my most disappointed, it would be this, but like I'm not disappointed in it. There's just a couple things I wish I had changed. One is the sleeve, because the sleeve is pretty tight, and maybe not gone for such a crazy color, but I think I maybe just need to wear it more, and then I might change my mind. So I'm not disappointed with this, but if I had to rank something, it would probably be this. What are you the most proud of in 2023? Is there something that you made that you look at and you just think, wow, I did that and it looks so good? I would love to know. And do you have any major goals in 2024? I've got the goals that I mentioned, and then I would really love to cast on and finish some of those sweaters that I've had on my Make Nines, I've had on my Ravelry Q, I've talked about that I already have the yarn. I really want to cast those on, and you know, like my Angora sweater. For real, like why have I not cast that on? Anyway, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed the stylings that I had scattered throughout the episode. I'm hoping to do more of that in 2024. Just do, you know, some like sharing the outfits that I wear and incorporating my knitwear. And hopefully the weather gets better. It has been raining, honestly, since New Year's. It is the darkest, grayest January that I can remember in a long time. So much so that I looked it up. We are well above average. We're not at the most rain that Ohio has seen, but we're getting there. So yeah, it's been dark so far. Anyway, thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you later and see you in another episode. Bye.